Last up for this section is percent of increase and percent of decrease, okay? So percent of increase is used to determine how much a value has increased over time. So the way we would calculate a percent of increase is we would find the value of the increase. What is the difference in one value compared to the next? And then you divide by the original value. This gives you a decimal. You then multiply it by 100 to get the percentage, okay? Now, percent of decrease is used to determine how much a value has decreased over time. So it's the same process. You find the value of the decrease, so find the difference in the two numbers you're comparing, and then divide by the original one, and then multiply by 100. Okay, so we're going to start by doing one of each with just basic numbers, then we'll do kind of more like an applied word problem for each. Okay, so example 6 says find each percent of increase or decrease. So part A, it says if 10 is decreased by 6, find the percent of decrease. Okay, so if 10 is decreased by 6, so we're going from 10 to 4. Okay, so we're decreased by 6. So basically that means going from 10 to 4. Find the percent of decrease. Well, we need the value of the decrease, and we need the original value. Well, the value of the decrease is 6. We're decreasing 10 by 6, so 6. And the original value is 10. We're starting with 10. We're going to decrease it by 6 to get 4. What is this percentage? Okay, so the original value is 10. So if I want the percent of decrease, can't spell, decrease, that equals 6 divided by 10. All right, well, let me write that out in words. I think it'll make more sense if I write it in words. So we get the value of decrease divided by the original. So that is 6 divided by 10 times 100. Well, 6 divided by 10, we should just get 0.6 and then multiply it by 100, we get 60. But let's go to the calculator, okay? So on the calculator, we want to take 6. Let me clear this out. 6, whoops, 6 divided by 10. Hit enter. We get 0.6. We want to multiply that by 100. And we get 60. So that's a 60% decrease. Okay. So back to the computer, back to the worksheet, we get 60%. All right. So if you take 10, decrease it by 6 to get 4, the value of the discount is 6, the original value is 10, we divide, then we multiply by 100, and we get that this is a 60% decrease, okay? Now, if 6 is increased by 10, so we're taking 6, we're going to add 10 to it, so we're going from 6 to 16, okay? Find the percent of increase. So we need a couple of things here. We need to understand that we're going, can't write to save my life today. We're going from 6 to 16. That means we're increasing 6 by 10, okay? The value of the increase is 10. The original value is what you're starting with. So in this case, 6. So let's see what this looks like. So we have a percent of increase. I'm just going to write it INC for increase. We want the value of the increase, and we want to divide it by the original value. That's going to equal the value of the increase is 10 because we're increasing 6 by 10, okay? And then we're going to divide by the original value. All right, and then we need to multiply by 100. All right. Now, you don't have to multiply by 100, but you have to move your decimal to the right twice, which means multiply by 100. So let's see, when we get 10 divided by 6, sorry, my Instant Pot is beeping in the background. So 10 divided by 6, we get 1.6 repeating. We multiply that by 100, and we get 166.67%. All right, so let me show you on the calculator really quick. Maybe. There we go. All right, so we're taking 10, that's the value of the increase. We're dividing it by 6, which was the original value. And then we get this crazy decimal. Remember, we have to move the decimal to the right twice, which is the same thing as multiplying by 100. All right, so we get 166.6 repeating. If you wanted to, you could write this as 166 and 2/3%. You could write this as 166.67 or 0.7%, or you could write it as 166.6 with the overbar repeating percent, okay? I'm going to go with 166.67%, okay? Read the directions, do what the directions say, but in this case, they don't really specify, so I'm making my own rules. So 166.67%. Okay. Now let's look at two word problems. Word problems might be presented a little differently because in parts A and B, we were told flat out what the decrease was, what the increase was. A lot of times you have to do the work to find the value of the increase or decrease. Okay. So part C says a town's population increased from 25,200 to 26,460. We're not being told what the actual increase is. We have to find the increase, okay? So to do that, you just subtract these two numbers. So once we subtract these numbers, we'll know how much the population increased by, okay? So we would take 26,460 minus 25,200, and we get 1,260. So the population increased by 1,260 people, okay? Now, here's what we have to do. We have to figure out what is the original value. So if the population is increasing, the smaller value is the original. We started out with 25,200. That's the original. We increased to 26,460. So the original value is 25,200. This is the value of the increase. So let's go to the formula. So the formula says if we have a percent of increase, it equals the value of the increase divided by the original. That gives you a decimal, and then you move the decimal to the right twice. So I'll go ahead and just throw in the times 100. So we get 1,260. That's the value of the increase. We want to divide it by the original value, which is 25,200. And then we're going to multiply by 100. And I'm just going to go straight to the calculator for this one. So 1,260 divided by 25,200. Okay, so we have 1,260 divided by 20. Good grief, I don't have enough space here. I'm very scrunched. Divided by 25,200. We hit enter. We go ahead and multiply that by 100. And we get 5. So that means there's a 5% increase in the population in this town. Okay. So we would say this represents a 5% increase in population. And that's your final answer. So they're not too bad. They're not really hard to do. You just have to sometimes do that extra step to actually calculate the increase or the decrease. Okay. So part D, an ice cream stand sold 6,000 ice cream cones last summer. This year, the same stand sold 5,400 ice cream cones. So they didn't sell as many this year compared to last year. What was the percent of decrease in the number of cones sold last summer to this summer? So let's figure out the value of decrease. Well, we still just have to subtract. We have to find the difference in the two numbers. So 6,000 one year, 5,400 the next year. So there is a difference in 600 cones. Okay. Now, what is the original value? Well, when you're dealing with a decrease, the original value is going to be the larger of the two. We started out in the first summer, selling 6,000 cones. The second summer, we only sold 5,400. So the original value would be 6,000. Okay. So the percent of decrease is going to be the value of the decrease divided by the original. This gives us a percentage, or this gives us a decimal. We would convert it to a percentage. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw in a times 100. So the value of our decrease is 600. We're going to divide by the original value, which is 6,000. We're going to multiply by 100. We can jump over to the calculator. Let's see, the calculator, we have 600 divided by 6,000. And then we want to multiply it by 100. And we can say there's a 10% decrease in number of ice cream cones sold from the first summer to the second summer. So let's see, we get this equals a 10% decrease in ice cream cones sold. And that's it. Okay. So parts A and B were really easy because you were given the amount of the increase, you were given the amount of the decrease. Parts C and D, you just had to do a teeny tiny little extra step where you actually calculate the increase or the decrease. Okay. But that's percent of increase, percent of decrease. After this section, we are going to kind of jump right into the financial math. So we're going to talk about income tax. We're going to talk about how to calculate a paycheck. We're going to look at simple interest, compound interest, retirement plans, buying cars and homes, sorry. And then potentially, if we have time, credit cards. Okay.